This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so Parshat Mishpatim is page 416, Perek Chaf Aleph, chapter 21 in Shmot. And we've had these amazing, suspenseful, heart-wrenching episodes, starting with beginning of, all of Bereshit was episode after episode after episode. And then Shmot, we have the building of the nation, we have the slavery, we have the plagues, we have the Exodus, we have the splitting of the sea, and then we have Mount Sinai. And now that I have your attention, good morning, Aaron. Now that we have your attention, now let me give you a whole bunch of mundane, archaic rules. So that is how I would say some of our detractors view Judaism and view Torah. It's interesting during the Sunday morning Gemara class. So the Talmud has two terms that when something is being quoted from the Torah, it says it is, right? We're familiar with the terms derabanan and deoraita. Deoraita is the Aramaic term that we use for something which is of Torah origin. Good morning, good morning. Oh, hello, Delia. Whoa, 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 whoa. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Wonderful to see you. Wow, wow. Jenny and Delia just walked in. Delia Ben. Wow. What a treat. So the terms that are often used is it da'araita or is it dirabanan? Is it dirabanan? We're familiar. Is it of rabbinic origin? Or is it deoraita, de Aramaic meaning she, of, page 416, oraita. So the term for the Torah that the Gemara uses is oraita. What is oraita? What is the root of the word oraita? Or light. So the book, the Torah, is oraita. It is illuminating. That's what it is. There's another term that the Gemara uses, and it calls it, the Torah is known as Rahmanah, right? From Rahaman, compassionate. And when I was talking about this morning, on Sunday morning during the Gemara class, so one of the fellows mentioned that in Greek, what do they call the Torah? I think it's, yes, I forget it means logos, right? Which is a Greek, I would say, Christian way of looking at our Torah, at that it's just this book of laws and laws and laws and laws and laws. And one could make that argument if one is viewing things on a superficial level, like we said before, that we had all of those stories, inspiring stories of Bereshit and of Shemot until we get to this point. And like I said, now that I have your attention, all right, take out your pens and paper and start to write down all of these rules now, and don't you forget. But on a number of levels, let's look at two of them. Every time, we discussed this before, every time that we make a blessing on a mitzvah, the blessing is Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvotav, that you have sanctified us through your mitzvot. The Torah understands, God, our Creator, understands that we are physical, spiritual beings. And therefore, there needs to be this integration of the Ruach of the spirit and of the guf, of the spiritual and the physical. And we must, involve ourselves physically. It's not just I believe, but we have to involve ourselves physically. I always say we do our belief in God as a creator through our Shabbat observance. That's how we do it. We've got to involve ourselves. Kiddishanu means that we become sanctified, we become changed. The whole idea of the Torah is not that God is Rachaman, but that we become Rachaman, compassionate. And it's only by doing the Rambam, Maimonides rules. If I have $100 to give to tzedakah, so should I give one person 100? Should I give 100 people $1? And he says that there's value to giving 100 people $1. Why? Because if you take that body of yours and you put your hand in your pocket and give to someone else, and you do that 100 times, that will change you more than giving that one person the $100. When we do, we are changed. And therefore, we need to involve ourselves. And we've seen in the relatively recent past how you could have a certain belief, and the way that you act could be so antithetical to anything of morals. Right? Look back at Stalinist Russia. You look back at certainly Nazi Europe. I don't want to say just Germany. Nazi Europe, right? With their beliefs, and turn the other cheek as we're slaughtering mothers and children. I mean, it's just crazy. So we've got to get ourselves involved. We've got to roll up our sleeves and do it. And that's Kiddishanu we've discussed. Kadosh is taking something that is physical and transforming it. There is preshut, which is stepping away from, and there is kiddush, which is sanctifying. And we mentioned marriage is called kiddushin. Wine is called kiddush, right? It's taking the physical world and elevating it. So now that we've received the Torah is the key towards involving this world and sanctifying this world. And that gets into the nitty-gritty. But besides that more general approach, there are so many fundamental, both moral, hashkafa meaning Jewish outlook, lessons that are contained in these simple mitzvot, these earthy, right? They say where the rubber hits the road, mitzvot. There are so many concepts that are taught to us. So let's begin. Ve'ele hamishpatim, and these are the mishpatim asher tasim lifnehem, that you shall place before them. Rashi points out, Hashem said to Moshe, don't just I'll teach them once or twice. Rather, it's got to be Sidura Bifnehem. It's got to be arranged before them. Rashi says, Kashulchan Ha'aruch. What is a Shulchan Ha'aruch? Like a table that is all set. Umuchan le'echol, and all ready to be eaten, Lifnei Ha'adam. And people are all ready to go and eat it. And of course, our seasoned ears picked up on Shulchan Ha'aruch, like a table that is set. And of course, the code of Jewish law, the classic code of Jewish law, written by Rabbi Yosef Karo, is called Shulchan Aruch, the set table, right? To lay it out before us. And we discussed this past Shabbos. I'll just deal with it for a few moments. Those who weren't here over Shabbos. The very first of the mitzvot that we start to talk about is who? Slaves. Eved Ivri. When you will acquire an Eved Ivri, 6 years, he will work for you. And then afterwards, he goes out free. How does a person become an Eved Ivri? One way is debt, but a very specific debt. Not that I borrowed some money and I couldn't pay it back. Not that I damaged and couldn't pay it back. Specifically, if I stole and I'm caught and I can't pay it back, so what will happen? I will get sold not to necessarily the person that I stole from. I will get sold to someone who will soon see is willing to take upon themselves this responsibility. And the money that is given for this servitude goes to the person from whom I stole to compensate, to pay that person back. Im b'kapo yavo b'kapo yetze. Okay. So why are we starting with slaves? So again, it's either a person who's stolen can't pay back, or a person who decides I can't take the pressures of life. I can't go to my mailbox and open up and find another bill, another bill, another bill. That's it. Just take care of me from the cradle to the grave. Sounds familiar, right? Right? Let me do my work and make sure I'm fed, my wife's fed, my kids are fed. Tell me what to do. I'll do it. I want to finish up when the workday's over and go to sleep. I could binge watch my Netflix, so I don't have to worry about anything else. That's what I want to do. That's what I want in life. That's all I want in life. Why are we starting with this fellow? Sorry? He's vulnerable. He's vulnerable. So the very first of the Mishpatim that we have is, we mentioned, a parent is most concerned about the child that struggles the most. Parent is most concerned about their struggling child. The ones who are doing well, we love them dearly. We're thrilled. Excuse me, Elise, right? We are thrilled, right? But our concern, our worries, our gray hairs or lack of hairs come from those that are struggling. Yes. We have little Elise here who's giving us lots of sweet smiles. Yeah. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God is the parent, and he's most concerned about this child of his who's struggling, whether through thievery or through an inability or an unwillingness to accept upon oneself the responsibilities of life. And what happens over here? He goes to this house where, we always think highly of people who are willing to take in foster children, right? To give children who don't have parents to take care of them for whatever reason, to give them a good start on life. This is not foster children. These are foster adults. This is taking someone into your house. He'll be working for you, but he'll be learning, ideally the prison system is called correctional facilities. But very often, though, we have an example here, a number of examples. We have an example here, a person who speaks about it freely, right? That's why I can mention, right, Yehuda Price, who speaks about it freely, how for him, it was a correctional facility. And it allowed him to completely redirect his life. And those who weren't here 2 Shabbos ago, we announced a double mazel tov for his daughter's bat mitzvah and for his getting his PhD in social work. Right? So for him, a brilliant person who was heading in the wrong direction. It was a correctional facility, but for most, I think the percentage of recidivism right, is very, very high. For most, it doesn't serve that. This is a correctional facility. I'm not going in with other people who have stolen. I'm moving into a family, a normal, functioning, healthy family. I recognize I've got to pay back the person that I stole from. Right? There's that sense of responsibility. Right? Otherwise, I get incarcerated, and this guy lost $10 million. Very good. What does my incarceration help this fellow? Right? Over here, it's their sense of responsibility, and he's being treated with the utmost respect. The utmost respect. And it has a very, very clear endpoint, be it 6 years, be it Yovel. The person comes into money, then the person can always redeem themselves out, right? It's the money that got him in, they can redeem themselves out, right? It is truly a correctional facility for them. Now, when it comes to a girl, there it's a very, very different situation, right? David Foreman has a very interesting approach on this. A father can sell his daughter into servitude. Now, the Gemara says there are two situations from which a person does not see siman bracha, a sign of blessing from that money. Two sales that a person will not see bracha, blessing from those sales. One of them is selling a daughter. The other one is selling a Sefer Torah. That the Gemara Megillah puts the two of them together. Now, let's keep in mind, when a parent is selling this daughter, she is a katana, she's a minor. She will go out after 6 years. She will go out after Yovel. She will go out if there is a redemption process that happens first. And she will go out once she reaches puberty. Once she becomes a Nara, Simanim, she starts, right? So this is not, right, the often horrific stories that we might have heard, read about of girls being taken into captivity and being violated. Now, it goes a step further, and this is something that Rabbi Foreman discusses. Ideally, let's take a look. Page 418, verse 7. If a man will sell his daughter as a maidservant, lo avadim. She will not go out in the manner, the way Rashi explains, that non-Jewish slaves go out, rather in the manner that Jewish slaves go out, males, and with an additional aspect also of reaching puberty. Imra'a be'inei adoneha, asher lo yi'ada vehefta. If she will be bad in the eyes of the owner, that he will not do yada, he will not marry her. Now, keeping in mind that this was a world of marriages that were, what I'm looking for? Arranged, thank you, not ordained. Arranged marriages, okay? So ideally, what will happen? The owner will marry her, or his son. Next pasuk, v'im livno yiyadena, or if to his son. This is, as Rabbi Foreman puts it, an incredible opportunity for upward mobility. We know that typically within our socio-economic religious group, that is where the matches happen, right? The very wealthy marry the very wealthy, the middle class, right? That's basically within our socio-economic circles. And here is an opportunity for this girl to break that glass ceiling. Then look at Pasuk Yud. This is fascinating. If after they marry, right, one of them marries this young girl, if someone else, if he'll marry another wife, right, polygamy according to the Torah, not rabbinically now, not now, but she'era ksuta va'onata lo yigra. She'era ksuta va'onata. These are the obligations that a man has to his wife as delineated in our present day ketubot. Right? Marriage, he writes a ketubah. This is what is included in there, the obligations. I always say when I'm doing at a wedding and we're doing the ketubah, I would say people say that Judaism is a very sexist religion, and it is. And it is. It's all about the woman. The guy can go to heck. It's all about the woman, right? And the ketubah is all about the man's obligations to the wife, period. Not a word about her obligations to him. And it discusses she'era, kesuta, va'onata. So that's going to be the sustenance, the mezonot, the food, kesuta, garments, onata is intimate marriage relations. If he were to take someone else, she cannot become the maidservant of the house. Once he marries her, she is the full-fledged wife. If he chooses to take another full-fledged wife, good luck to him, right? That's his decision. However, she cannot become demoted in any way. So where do we learn out the obligations of a husband to a wife? From this situation. From this one who is the most vulnerable, the one who might become diminished, who might become relegated to second-class status. No, she'era kasuta v'onata lo yigra. Let's continue on to page 420 of Pasuk 18, Yudchet, Chaf Aleph 21, Yudchet 18. V'chi yirivun anashim. Two guys are fighting. V'hika ishat re'ah, one hits the other. V'lo yamut, right? And thankfully he didn't kill him. But the guy was somewhat nafal mishkav, bedridden. Im yakum v'talech v'chutzon shlo v'nikam makeh. If he will recuperate and not die, then it's not a capital case. Rak shivto yitain v'rapo yirapeh. But shivto, his shevet, here's what we call the workman's compensation. His leave from work must be paid for. V'rapo yirapeh. And also heal him, you must heal him. The doctor's bills, the medical bills also need to be paid. That goes on to him. The Gemara actually learns out that there are 5 different payments that need to be evaluated when someone accosts someone else. I don't want to say injures, because some of them there might not be any physical injury, but some of the 5 might apply, and that's nezek, the actual damages, tsar, the pain, ripui, shevet, and boshet. Ripui is the healing, shevet is the workman's compensation, boshet is the humiliation that the person went through. Those are the 5 values that need to be assessed as part of the payment that is made. The Gemara asks, from where do we learn out that a doctor has permission to heal? Rashi explains the reason why we need a source for the doctor to have permission to heal is based on a way of looking at things, which actually the Christian scientists today still do believe, and that is, Rashi says, hu mache, hu maseh. God is the one who hit him. Let God make him better. Who are we to get involved there with our stethoscopes and the this and the that? This is between God and that person. That person has to do teshuvah. Now, actually, there is a Mishnah that we have in Sanhedrin that Chizkiyahu hid a Sefer Refuot. There was a book of healings that was hidden away. According to some commentators, Rambam doesn't like this explanation, but according to the most commentators, the issue was that people were relying on that and not calling out to God. And even we, when we take our medication, there is a supplication that we're supposed to first say, Yehi Ratzon, may it be the will of God, that this dealing that I'm about to do should serve to heal. Because you, God, are the one who heals for free. And in our world of our health insurance premiums and cost of medications and cost of hospitalizations, we could truly appreciate when we say that God is a Rofei Chinam, he heals for free.
Hi,
So
how are
there
you?
is this concept of, and Rambam says,
Hello
no,
again.
you wouldn't take away a means of healing that a person has, but what you might, he says actually, he has a couple of explanations. One explanation that the Rambam gives for it is that this was a book that said, oh, if a person ate these things together, that is somewhat poisonous, so this is the remedy. So what happened, Rambam says? Well, people started to say, oh, now I know how to poison the guy. Right? They weren't using it for refuah, for healing. They were using it to say, oh, these things, right? So let me serve him this and then that, right? And then take care of this guy or girl, right? So that's how the Rambam learns. But typically, but Rashi, others learn that no, it was an over reliance. So we see we have this concept of not over relying on the medication. But the Gemara asks, how do we know that we're even allowed to use it at all? And the Gemara says, "V'rapo yirapeh." Here, if you got to pay the doctor's bills, then we see clearly that you're allowed to, and we say that right, and we say that that is the doctor has reshut and should get involved. We say, but God did it. Let God heal it. No, so we understand that this is all part of the process. That God wants us to get involved, but to keep in mind that ultimately the healing comes from Him. However, what I just said doesn't really fit. Again, Rashi says, I might have thought we would say a doctor can't heal because God hit him. Let God heal him. But what are we discussing over here where the pasuk says, V'rapo yirapeh? Man hit him. God didn't hit him. This thug on the street corner is the one who punched me in the face. So why does the Gemara say, why does Rashi explain the Gemara is saying, I might have thought God hit him, let God heal him? That's not what we're discussing over here. It wasn't God. And once again, is another example how we see how interwoven in this very, very practical, down-to-earth law is a fundamental Jewish concept. Yes, Cheryl.
Well, God didn't hit him personally, but God overlooked
Okay.
and there's a reason for it.
Okay. Yes. So what Cheryl said is, yes, God isn't the one who hit him. But as we like to say, my bechira, my free will, stops at your nose. That's where my free will stops. Meaning that if I cannot utilize, I will not be able to successfully utilize my free will unless you are meant to go through whatever it is that I'm about to subject you to. Otherwise, it won't happen. Something else will happen along the way, right? It'll get intercepted. I'll get diverted, whatever it is. You'll decide to make a quick turn, right? Whatever it might be. So yes, even the seemingly mundane, humanly orchestrated events could only happen if that's what God had in mind. And who taught us this concept very, very clearly? Esther. Okay, let me hear what you want to say about Esther. We have Purim coming up. Right, Mordechai says to Esther, right? Look.
Whether you do it or not, it's going to get done. You may as well get the credit for it.
Right. Your decision, you're not determining if it's going to happen or not. You're determining what role are you going to play or not play in it. Are you going to be the heroine or the villainess? That's your decision. I'm thinking about the Parsha that we had before. Sorry. Let me hear what you want to say about Para, Gabriella.
Para was like Aaron demonstrated between the court magicians. He was supposed to be a stick or a staff in Hashem's hands, but he was a snake.
Okay, so Paro was meant to be a stick, a staff who would not be adding on anymore, but instead he became a snake which adds its own venom, and that's why Paro will be held responsible. But even that would need to be nevertheless within what we needed to go through. But I'm thinking of someone who stated this point explicitly. And that was Joseph and his brothers. When he says, Lo atem shalachtem oti hena. You're not the ones who sent me here. Ki im Hashem. But rather it was God who sent me here. To be a michya, to be a source of sustenance. What do you mean it wasn't them? They're the one who threw him in a pit. They're the ones who sold him down. Right? But he understood that if it happened, it only happened because this was part of God's master plan, that I should be here in order to support you, right? The first dream was the bundles surrounding and bowing down to his bundle, that you will be dependent upon me for your sustenance. But Yosef is willing to say it wasn't you. Right? It was you, but it wasn't you. It was you in terms of how you'll have to deal with God. How you'll have to deal with God, it was you. But I'm out. Right? We mentioned, anything that I've done wrong to anyone. That's like you hear these cases of these people like shootings. People get up there, we forgive you. The only one who can forgive is the one who was harmed. I can't forgive someone who did something to someone else. Not only can't I, God cannot forgive someone. If there's an aveira, a sin between two people, unless that person forgives, God cannot forgive. So Yosef said to his brothers, you know what? From my perspective, it's all good. Now it's between you and God, and that's your personal relationship with God. However you want to sort that out, that's how you'll sort it out. But I'm out, right? I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at the greater picture. And this we see right over here from Rapoya Rapeh, from the healing that takes place over here. Seems to be very, very simple, down to earth, almost crass. He beat him up. He's got to make these payments. No. We're learning how it is that God runs this world. Let's go to page 424. The very bottom there, Pasuk Lamed Zayin. We're still chapter Chaf Aleph 21. Pasuk Lamed Zayin. The person steals a shore, an ox, or a says a sheep or goat. Utvacho o mecharo, and he either slaughters it or he sells it. Now, in addition, besides the usual double fine that a person needs to pay if he stole and was caught, here now it's different. Chamisha bakar, 5x, 5 times the value of that ox. Yishalem tachat hashor, he needs to pay for the ox. The arbatzon, 4x, 4 times he needs to pay in place of the sheep or goat. Why are we differentiating? Why 5 times for an ox and 4 times for a sheep? Right? An ox is a more expensive item. right? 5 times that, if anything, make that 4 times, the other one 5 times. Otherwise, it's just too much. Why 5 times the value of an ox, 4 times the value of the sheep or goat? And Rashi offers 2 explanations. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says, Chas hamakom al kvodam shel briot. The difference is the honor, the humiliation of the thief. Sure, Shaholech Baraglav, I stole an ox. I led it away in a dignified fashion. I didn't humiliate myself. Lo nitbazeh bo aganav lenaso al katefo. I didn't humiliate myself in hoisting it up on my shoulders. I have to pay 5. Se shenoso al katefo, the sheep or goat that I put it onto my shoulders, not the most dignified picture that they caught of me, right? With the sheep on my shoulders. Often they get scared. When they get scared, no need to go into details, right? It's not all that pretty. Mishalem Dalid. For that, I'm only paying 4. Do we hear this? Do we hear this? Because the thief, as he is stealing, but it wasn't very honorable. What he had to go through was somewhat degrading. I'm caring about the honor of the thief as he's stealing from me. That's going to play a role in determining the payment. It was very embarrassing for me, he tells, Your Honor. When I was stealing, I had to lift it up on my shoulders. It was not lefi kavodi. It was not befitting my dignity, right? The violins are coming out, right? In our world, in our courts, he'd be laughed out of there. This would be a Monty Python episode. That's what it would be. But no, every person is B'Tselem Elokim. Every person is in the image of God. And if this person, Nebuch, tragically has descended to the point of thievery, we still have to be concerned about his honor or her honor. Wow. That is what is tucked away inside this din, this law of paying 5x for the ox, only 4x for the sheep or goat. The respect that we need to have and how careful we need to be for someone else's dignity, someone else's honor. I would say one of the tasks that a community rabbi often has is how to help somebody get off their high horse with dignity. Right? They've put themselves into a ridiculous situation without any help from the rabbi. They, on their own, have managed to put themselves into a ridiculous situation. How can we engineer a way for them to get off of that and maintain their dignity? It is so important that a person maintains their dignity. Without that, they're broken. Rashi has another pshat. Rabbi Meir says, Bo'urei kama gedola kocha shel malacha. Come and see how important, how great is the power of work. An ox works. The sheep or goat don't really work. By stealing this person's ox, you took away his ability to do work, to support himself. For that, you have to pay 5 times the amount. Said the sheep, the goat, which doesn't do malacha, that is less. Right? The importance that we need to give to someone who's working. And my father, Zichrono Livracha, would always, in every way, he would always hammer this into me. Hammer this into me, that you've got to respect someone who's trying, who's working. If we'd be walking along the streets of Jerusalem and there'd be some people with their hands out and others playing some musical instrument with a case opened in front. So my father would say to me, what he lacks in skill, he compensates with effort. That's how my father would put it. And he appreciated the fact, instead of just being there with the hand out, which sometimes a person needs to be, I'm not putting that down, but he's trying to give some service, trying to give you some value, trying to make your day nicer by paying that. And when my father was a professor at Long Island University, so I would often, if it was a day that my mother passed away, if yeshiva was off, my father was going to work, so I would go with him to university. I'd go into the gym, play some whatever. I used to go with him, and it always impressed me how he greeted everyone there, introducing me to everyone there, whether it was the dean or whether it was a custodian, whoever it was, he would introduce me, greet that person the same manner, introduce them to his son in the same way. And lastly, on that same idea, when my father passed away, so there was a teenage, maybe in early 20s, African American girl who worked at, there was like dairy restaurant pizza place in Boca Raton, Florida, called John's Place. Right? And when she heard that my father passed away, she started to cry. What was the connection? My father, whenever he would go there, he would talk to her and encourage her. I think she told me, she said she was starting to go to college. He was encouraging her to go forward. He took the time to talk to her and to encourage her to take those steps forward, to get nothing wrong with cleaning tables at a pizza place, but if she wanted more than that, to encourage her to take the steps and to make that investment. So by telling us once again that you pay 5x for the ox and you pay 4x for the sheep or goat, we see the value of malacha, of work. The Gemara says, Pishot nevelata bishuk ba'al titztarech libriot. A person should even have the job of stripping the hide off of a carcass in the street, as opposed to needing others to support us. Right? To do what we can do, what we need to do. And it goes on and on. Let's get in a few more over here. Yes, Gabriella.
I interpreted what said a little differently. I thought you were going to say this. When what they lack in skill, they make up in effort. I thought that pertained to the person asking for tzedakah because maybe they lack the skill to play musical instruments, so they're not playing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. My father was actually saying that the guy who was there on the keyboard was not hitting too many of the right notes. But he was trying. He was trying. This is fascinating. Take a look on page 428, Parak Chaf Bet 22, verse 15. Right? And the person will seduce a young girl, not married, single girl, and will sleep with her. Mahor yimarenu lo liisha. He shall provide her with a marriage contract as his wife. To me, this is a classic example of how the Torah was written, was given, I should say, at a time when society was worlds apart than it is today, but has within it the provisions, right? It has this divine forecasting and foresight to fit into our world today. And it's not, well, let's look at the world as it was then and the world as it is today in many parts of the world. Right? We had a number of years ago the Boko Haram crew who had kidnapped a bunch of schoolgirls, and most of them were rescued. They had all been violated by these guys, by these holy warriors, and they were stigmatized for life. Who would want to marry such a girl? And if one of them, and more than one, was impregnated now, were they ostracized? What do you want from the girl? What do you want from the girl? But that is the society today in certain places, and that was certainly the society going back a few thousand years. You have ruined this young girl's life. Guess what? You've got to fix it. No one's going to marry her. You have to take care of her for the rest of your life, the rest of her life. Now, that's then. In our world today, the last thing in the world is that this girl would want to be on the same planet as this person, much less to be. Now, keep in mind, even today, most violations happen between people who know one another, and it's cousins, it's whatever it might be, right? It's relatives. It's not some crazy stranger on the street. Normally, it's. But in our world, right, the last thing in the world is that they'd want to be married. That she would agree. Next pasuk. V'im ma'en yima'en avia letita lo. If the father will refuse, and the Gemara learns out, I believe, from the double term ma'en yima'en, either she or the father can refuse, then kesef yishkol, then a monetary penalty will need to be paid. So on one hand, the Torah is giving us the remedy for the time then and even today many places, with that pressure release button over there, with the ability to say, no, if this will not work in a society or in a situation or a generation, whatever it might be, where this will not be the appropriate step to take, then we continue right on, of course, and there is this exclusion that it will not go to that. Let's look on that same page, the bottom of page 430 now. Im kesef talveh et ami et ha'ani imach. If you lend someone, the poor amongst you, don't be like a noshed. Don't be like a creditor, like a creditor, like a collector. You can't put any interest on. Now, very strange. Im. What does im normally mean? If, right? But this is not a voluntary thing. If you decide to do, right? This is an obligation. This is one of the places where an obligation starts off with im. And Or Chaim, some of the commentators explain as follows. Im kesef, we discussed before, what in English we call charity, in Hebrew we call tzedakah. Charity is goodness, the graciousness of my heart. I'm such a good guy. I'm one of a kind. I'm going to take care of you. You're a charity case, but I'm up there. I'll take care of you. The Torah says chas v'shalom. Tzedakah comes from tzedek. Tzedek means just, justice. Why? Im kesef talveh ami. If you're in a situation where you've got money to lend to someone else, understand why are you in that situation? Et ha'ani imach. Not the poor man who's amongst you. No. Et ha'ani. That which rightfully belongs to the other person ended up where? Imach. With you. In your pocket. Right? I say the same way I have a rabbi's discretionary account and I distribute money, right? Labriyut, God bless you. It's not my money. I just have I was granted the custodianship to decide how to direct it. Well, when I earn money, 10% of that, I am simply a custodian. So if kesef talvet on me, if you find yourself in a situation that you have money to be lending out, etani imach, realize that it is etani, that which belongs to the poor person that ended up in your pocket. So now, granted, you've got the custodianship, the discretion to decide where should you direct it, but it's not yours. It's a matter of knowing how to direct it. Then we have page 432, Lotisa Shema Shav, chapter 23, verse 1. Do not accept a false report. Where else do we have laws? What other body of law contains rules of speaking about someone else? Where else do we find it? There is an idea of slander. That slander, if it will lead to financial harm. No, what I'm saying is, yes, we've got it. But I'm saying other bodies of law, other societies, right? Imagine, right? The Chavetz Chaim has a whole halachic compendium. Chavetz Chaim means want life, right? He wasn't born with the name Chafetz and the family name was Chaim, right? He wrote a book about Lashon Hara, about pure speech, not speaking based on the pasuk Mi'a'ish Chafetz Chaim, who's the person who wants life? Nitzor Lashon Chameros, Fatech Midabri Mirma, guard your tongue from speaking badly, from speaking slander. Right? A whole body of law about what I can and cannot say. Right? We can't accept it as truth. At the same time, we have to be concerned that it might be true. We have a fast day of Tzom Gedalia, that Gedalia was warned, Yishmael ben Netanyahu is coming to kill you. He did not accept Lashon Hara. That was a mistake on his part. He shouldn't have accepted it as truth and had him killed on the way, but instead of giving him a hug, he should have had some henchmen around him and said, hello, welcome, please have a seat across the table from me. So good, how can I help you? He should have had him search for any weaponry before he came in. But he can't accept it as truth. Here we have this whole body of law about what I can and cannot say. What I can and cannot believe when I hear from someone else. What makes human beings unique? By creation, the very beginning, Hashem became and Adam became a nefesh chaya. The pasuk says a ruach memalala, one who can speak. Very back, page 10. You have to look. Right, God blew into his nostrils a nishmat chayim, and a neshama of life. Vayhi Adam, and Adam became lenefesh chaya, a living being. The Targum says, L'ruach mimalala, a spirit who's able to now speak, right? We attach tremendous importance to speech. I always say, if we look back at times that we feel really uplifted or that we felt really, really down, really hurt, typically it was not from anything physical. It was emotional, usually from words. That is what lifts us up. That is what brings us down. Cheryl, did you want to say something before?
I did, but never mind.
Okay. And let's just do one more to give us an idea of how from these mundane laws, we are learning how to be exalted, uplifted, godly human beings in terms of caring for one another, in terms of seeing how God runs this world. V'chi tifka, pasuk 3 and pasuk 4. Ki tifka shor oyivcha. If you encounter the ox of your enemy, O chamoro, or his donkey, toeh, wandering, lost, hashev teshivenu lo, you must return it to him. Ki tireh chamor sonacha, when you see the donkey, page 434, of your enemy, someone that you hate, rovetz, tachat masa'o, crouching, buckling under its load, v'chadalta me'azov lo, are you going to stop from helping him? Azov to azov imo. You must go and help him. The Gemara discusses that there's a mitzvah of helping someone load. There's a mitzvah of helping someone unload. Which is a greater mitzvah? Unloading. Why? Relieve the burden from the animal. There's the tsar balei chayim involved. There's also a monetary loss, right? If I'm loading, so I might miss out on future business, but what I own now is not going to become damaged, debilitated under its load. The Gemara, though, says that if it is my enemy that needs loading and my dear friend that needs unloading, which takes precedence? Which should I better do? Load the enemy. Do the lesser mitzvah of loading the enemy before you do that greater mitzvah of unloading for your friend. The Gemara says, Kayaf liyitzrei adif, because to overcome your yetzer, right? My inclination, I don't want to help this guy. I hate this guy. To overcome that is adif, is more important. And the way that I like to look at it, right? We know that the Hebrew word for love is ahav. That's a 3-letter shoresh, aleph, hey, vet. That 3-letter shoresh root has a 2-letter root, and that is hav. Hav means to give. From that we learn out that when we give to someone, we start to love that person, right? We would think that if someone gives me, I love them. No. When I give to them, I love them. And that is evidenced by the parent-child relationship, where the parent is predominantly the giver, the child is predominantly the receiver, and the parent loves the child more than the child loves the parent. The giver has a greater love than the receiver, right? And all of us, right, right, been parents, right, been children, been parents, know the very fact that our parents love us more than we love them. We love our kids more than they love us. It's just a fact, right? Why is that? Because when we give, that builds up love. So let's look back now over here. If I am loading up my enemy, then what's happening? All of a sudden, I'm not feeling quite as antagonistic to that person. So the way I like to look at it, more important than unloading the animal is my unloading myself. If I can unload that that feeling of anger or hate or antipathy, whatever it might be that I have to that person, that's a more important unloading than unloading the animal. As much as we value the concept of tsar balei chayim, not causing any anguish to an animal, right? But unloading ourselves from any malevolent feelings you might have towards someone else, that is the most important unloading that we can do. And the Chavetz Chaim also points out, if you have to unload an animal, right? So how much more so if a person has something on their mind, on their shoulders, on their heart. So if there's a mitzvah to help the animal unload, how much more do we need to be sensitive towards others and to see if we could help them unload also? And that actually brings geula. Where did we see that? Also saw that again by Yosef, right? Before Yosef interpreted the dreams of the butler baker, what does the pasuk say? It says over there, page 218, verse 7, verse 6. They came to Yosef in the morning. This is the butler and the baker, and he saw them, v'hinam zoafim. They looked aggrieved. And he asked them, Madua panechem ra'im hayom. Why are you appearing so downcast today? So Yosef's deliverance from prison to being catapulted to becoming the second in charge there of Mitzrayim, because he interpreted Paro's dreams, because he interpreted the dreams of the baker, the butler, and the butler, because he saw that they looked down. A, he noticed. B, he acted on it. He saw panam v'inam zoafim, and he said, Madua panechem rayim hayom. If we have a mitzvah to help an animal unload, how much of a greater mitzvah do we have to help our friends, not just our friends, even our enemies, to help other people, not we have any enemies, to help other people, human beings, unload. So these are just a sampling of the mundane, archaic, right, laws that are logos that the Torah has, but we see that Torah is in fact oraita. Torah is illumination. God is the Rahmanah, the compassionate one. And interwoven into all of these practical laws is a honing of our sensitivity towards others and towards the spirituality that is here in the world all around us. We'll call it over here once again. Delia, such a treat. Welcome, welcome. Everyone here online can say hello to those who are here in person. This is Delia Ben. Those who are newer to the community, Delia is one of the pillars of the community.
Hi, Delia.
I think that was Ruthie saying hello to you, Delia.
Okay.
Hi.
Ruthie.
Hi, everyone else.
Good. Okay, my friends, good. We'll call it over here. Nice seeing everybody. Shavua tov, everybody.
Thank you. Shavua tov.